Welcome to English Lane. Dear learners, today you are going to listen to one of the most inspiring life stories of our time. The story of a man who rose from a working-class family to become the 46th President of the United States. This is the life of Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., a man of compassion, perseverance, and purpose. Through this biography, you will improve your English listening skills, pronunciation, and understanding of real spoken English. You will also learn the values of leadership, honesty, empathy, and determination that guided Joe Biden throughout his journey. This story is not only about politics, it is about family, faith, struggle, and resilience. Now let's begin the complete life story of Joe Biden. Part 1. Early life and family background. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. was born on November 20th, 1942 in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He was the eldest of 4 children born to Joseph Biden Sr. and Catherine Eugenia Finnegan Biden. His family was of Irish Catholic heritage, proud, humble, and deeply rooted in faith. His father worked as a used car salesman and had faced many ups and downs in business life. At times, the Bidens struggled financially, but they never lost their sense of dignity or optimism. His mother, Jean Finnegan Biden, was a woman of strong moral character who often reminded Joe to treat everyone with respect and kindness. She taught him that no one is better than you and you are better than no one. This simple sentence became one of the guiding principles of Joe Biden's life. When Joe was 10 years old, his father moved the family from Scranton to Claymont, Delaware in search of better work opportunities. The transition was not easy. They left behind friends and familiar surroundings, but Joe quickly adapted to his new environment and began to show signs of leadership, even at a young age. He loved storytelling and had a natural to connect with people around him. Those who knew him as a child often said Joe had a big heart and a strong sense of justice. Childhood challenges and overcoming. Stuttering. Although Joe was confident and kind-hearted, he faced a painful challenge during his early school years. A severe stutter. Speaking clearly was difficult for him, and he was often teased by classmates. Some children imitated his speech and called him cruel nicknames, but Joe refused to give up. Every night he would stand in front of a mirror reciting poetry and famous speeches, trying to control his voice. He used to read the works of Irish poet William Butler Yeats and practice until late at night. He even memorized long passages from Shakespeare to train his tongue and timing. Slowly but surely he improved. He later said that overcoming his stutter was the first real fight of his life. It taught him discipline, patience, and courage. It also helped him understand what it feels like to be underestimated. That experience developed a deep empathy that would later define his leadership style. He never forgot what it felt like to struggle, and that memory made him compassionate toward others. Education and college life. Joe attended St. Helena's School and later Archmere Academy, a private Catholic preparatory school in Delaware. Archmere was a place of discipline and academic excellence. To afford tuition, Joe worked part-time washing windows and landscaping. He used to say that walking through the gates of Archmere was like entering a dream. He loved sports, especially football, and became a standout halfback and wide receiver. His teammates admired his determination, even though he was not the biggest player on the field. After graduating in 1961, Joe enrolled at the University of Delaware. He majored in history and political science and played football there as well. It was during his university years that his interest in politics and public service began to grow. He was deeply inspired by President John F. Kennedy, who had called on young Americans to serve their country. Joe believed that leadership was about helping others, not about power or fame. During these years, Joe also began to realize the importance of empathy in politics. He saw inequality and racial tension across America and felt the urge to make a difference. After completing his bachelor's degree, Joe attended Syracuse University College of Law. While studying law, he continued to work hard and maintained his down-to-earth character. He was not the top student in class, but he was focused, persistent, and determined. Marriage and early career in law. In 1964, while on vacation in the Bahamas, Joe met Nelia Hunter. Nelia was a bright and graceful student from Syracuse University. They fell deeply in love and got married in 1966. Their marriage was built on love, trust, and shared ambition. Nelia encouraged Joe to follow his dreams and enter public service. Together, they had 3 children, Bo, Hunter, and Naomi. After finishing law school in 1968, Joe began practicing law in Wilmington, Delaware. He soon got involved in local politics, joining the Democratic Party. He ran for the New Castle County Council in 1970 and won. As a young councilman, Biden focused on housing, environment, and public safety. People quickly noticed his ability to listen, empathize, and connect with ordinary citizens. He would often visit working-class neighborhoods and talk directly to families about their problems. This grassroots connection became a lifelong habit that made him a beloved figure in Delaware politics. During this time, Joe's personality was marked by energy, optimism, and sincerity. He loved meeting people, shaking hands, and hearing their stories. He once said that the best politicians are the ones who remember the faces and names of those they serve. The 1972 Senate campaign and the tragic accident. In 1972, at only 29 years old, Joe Biden decided to run for the United States Senate from Delaware. Many people thought it was impossible. He was too young and unknown, but Biden ran an energetic campaign with the slogan, "Joe Biden Cares." He traveled across the state in a small car with his sister Valerie as his campaign manager. They had almost no money, but they had passion, sincerity, and belief in people. Joe's message was simple. He wanted to bring honesty and humanity back to politics against all odds. Joe Biden won the election, defeating the longtime Republican incumbent J. Caleb Boggs. It was a stunning victory that made national headlines. He became the 5th youngest senator in U.S. history. But just a few weeks after his victory, tragedy struck. On December 18, 1972, while Christmas shopping, Nelia and their baby daughter Naomi were killed in a car accident. His sons, Bo and Hunter, were seriously injured, but survived. The news broke Joe completely. He was ready to give up politics and devote his life only to his sons. He told friends that he could not imagine serving in the Senate while his family suffered such loss. But other senators and his family convinced him that serving the people was what Nelia would have wanted. So Joe took his oath of office in 1973 beside his sons' hospital beds. From then on, he commuted daily from Wilmington to Washington by train to be with his family every night. This daily journey became famous as Amtrak Joe, a symbol of his devotion as a father and his humility as a leader. That moment defined his entire career, balancing duty with love, politics with family, and ambition with compassion. Part 2. Becoming the youngest senator. In 1973, Joe Biden officially began his first term as a United States Senator. At only 30 years old, he was one of the youngest people ever elected to the Senate. He entered Washington with a mixture of grief and determination. Every day, he carried the memory of his wife and daughter with him. He would travel from Delaware to Washington and back again, more than 100 miles each way. He took the train every morning and returned home every night to be with his 2 sons. That journey continued for more than 3 decades and became a symbol of his loyalty to family. At the beginning of his Senate career, Joe focused on learning and listening. He studied how government worked, how laws were made, and how negotiations took place behind closed doors. He worked on committees dealing with the judiciary, environment, and foreign relations. He built friendships across party lines and gained respect for his decency and straightforwardness. Many older senators treated him like a son, helping him navigate the complex political world of Washington. Joe never forgot where he came from. He often said, "I'm just Joe from Delaware." His humility and approachability made him stand out in a city often filled with pride and ego. The healing power of family and the love of Jill Biden. By the mid-1970s, Joe had started to rebuild his personal life. In 1975, he met Jill Jacobs, a young English teacher from Pennsylvania. She was intelligent, compassionate, and full of warmth. Joe's sons, Bo and Hunter, immediately grew attached to her. In 1977, Joe and Jill got married in New York City in a small, intimate ceremony. It was not just a marriage, it was the beginning of a new chapter of hope and healing. Jill played a vital role in restoring Joe's faith in family and future. She became a loving stepmother to Bo and Hunter and helped them grow up in a stable and caring home. In 1981, Joe and Jill welcomed their daughter Ashley into the family. The Bidens once again became whole, filled with love and laughter. Despite the pain they had endured, Jill Biden continued teaching even after becoming Second Lady and later First Lady. She once said, "Teaching is not just what I do, it's who I am." Her constant support helped Joe maintain balance between his public duties and private life. She encouraged him through political ups and downs, always reminding him of the importance of purpose and humility, long Senate career, and political growth. Joe Biden served in the United States Senate for 36 years, from 1973 to 2009. During this time, he built a reputation as one of the most experienced and respected lawmakers in Washington. He became chairman of 2 of the most powerful committees, the Senate Judiciary Committee and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. As chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Biden worked on major issues such as crime control, drug policy, and civil rights. He led the effort to pass the Violence Against Women Act in 1994, which provided stronger protections for victims of domestic abuse. The law became one of his proudest legislative achievements. On foreign policy, Biden helped shape America's response to international crises. He was deeply involved in issues related to Iraq, Afghanistan, Eastern Europe, and nuclear arms control. He visited war zones, met with world leaders, and worked to strengthen alliances. His knowledge of global politics earned him respect among diplomats and foreign ministers worldwide. Biden was also known for his ability to compromise. He believed that politics should be about finding common ground, not fighting for personal gain. He often said, "We can disagree without being disagreeable." That approach helped him work with both Democrats and Republicans to pass important legislation. Throughout his Senate career, Joe Biden represented the values of Delaware's working-class people. He defended labor unions, fought for better health care, and supported public education. He spoke out against injustice and stood up for those who had no voice. Personal challenges and family tragedies. Despite his long and successful political career, Joe Biden faced continuous personal struggles. In 1988, while preparing for his first presidential campaign, he suffered 2 brain aneurysms. Doctors said he could have died if not treated immediately. He was forced to take a long break from politics for surgery and recovery. During that period, he reflected deeply on life, family, and purpose. He realized that health and family were far more important than ambition. After recovery, he returned to the Senate with renewed energy and focus, but life tested him again years later. In 2015, Joe Biden's eldest son, Beau Biden, died from brain cancer at the age of 46. Beau had been Delaware's Attorney General and was seen as a rising political star. His death devastated the entire Biden family. Joe often said that Beau was everything he ever hoped to be: strong, honest, and brave. He wrote about his grief in his book, Promise Me, Dad, which became a message of hope and resilience for millions around the world. Biden's experiences with pain and loss gave him a rare emotional depth as a leader. He became known for comforting people in moments of tragedy, not as a politician, but as someone who understood suffering personally. This quality made him one of the most empathetic public figures in America. Vice Presidency with Barack Obama. In 2008, Barack Obama, then a young senator from Illinois, chose Joe Biden as his running mate in the presidential election. Obama admired Biden's vast experience in foreign policy and his ability to connect with working-class Americans. Together, they formed a partnership based on trust, respect, and shared values. The Obama-Biden ticket won the election in November 2008, making Barack Obama the 44th president and Joe Biden the 47th vice president of the United States. They took office in January 2009, at a time when the country was facing a severe economic crisis known as the Great Recession. As vice president, Joe Biden was given major responsibilities. He helped oversee the implementation of the Recovery Act, a massive plan to save and create millions of jobs. He focused on rebuilding the American middle class, improving education, and supporting clean energy projects. In foreign policy, Biden represented the United States in many parts of the world. He worked to strengthen alliances in Europe, rebuild relations with Iraq, and support diplomacy over conflict. Obama often relied on Biden's decades of experience in dealing with complex international issues. Their partnership became one of the strongest in modern American politics. Obama publicly referred to Biden as his brother and awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2017, the nation's highest civilian honor. During his 8 years as vice president, Biden became a symbol of loyalty, humility, and perseverance. He was known for his warm personality and his ability to connect with ordinary people. Whether visiting soldiers, comforting families who lost loved ones, or listening to workers at a factory, Joe Biden always brought humanity to leadership. Part 3. Life after the Vice Presidency. When Joe Biden and Barack Obama left office in January 2017, Biden had spent more than 40 years in public service. He was deeply respected by people from both political parties for his integrity and compassion. However, the end of the Obama administration was also a time of reflection and uncertainty for Joe. He had lost his beloved son Beau just 2 years earlier, and he was emotionally exhausted. Many supporters wanted him to run for president in the 2016 election, but he decided not to. He explained that his family was still mourning Beau's death, and he needed more time to heal. After leaving office, Biden continued to stay active in public life. He established the Biden Foundation, which focused on issues like education, equality, and cancer research. He worked with the Cancer Moonshot Initiative, a program inspired by Beau's battle with brain cancer. To accelerate cancer treatment research, he also taught classes at the University of Pennsylvania and gave speeches across the United States and abroad. During these years, Biden's image grew stronger as a symbol of empathy and moral leadership. He often spoke about unity, decency, and restoring the soul of America. He reminded Americans that kindness and honesty were not weaknesses. They were strengths, preparing for a new challenge. By 2019, the political situation in America had become deeply divided. There was increasing anger, misinformation, and conflict between communities. Biden believed that the country was losing its sense of decency and shared purpose. He felt a strong moral responsibility to step forward again. On April 25, 2019, Joe Biden officially announced that he was running for President of the United States. In his announcement speech, he said, "We are in a battle for the soul of this nation." His campaign message focused on unity, restoring America's values, and rebuilding trust among citizens. He promised to bring compassion and experience back to the White House. At first, many people doubted whether Biden could win. He was 76 years old and had faced multiple personal losses, but he campaigned tirelessly, traveling across the country, meeting ordinary Americans, and listening to their concerns. He often shared personal stories of loss, struggle, and resilience to connect with people on a human level. His empathy became his greatest strength. Voters saw in him a leader who understood pain and knew how to heal. The 2020 presidential election. The 2020 election became one of the most historic and challenging elections in American history. The world was facing the COVID-19 pandemic, which caused millions of deaths and widespread fear. The United States was also dealing with racial tension, economic uncertainty, and political polarization. Joe Biden's campaign focused on hope over fear and unity over division. His running mate was Senator Kamala Harris from California, the first woman of color to be nominated for vice president by a major party. Together, they presented a vision of healing, diversity, and inclusion. Because of the pandemic, most of Biden's campaign events were held virtually. He spoke from his home in Delaware, often addressing the nation through television and online platforms. His calm tone and message of empathy appealed to many Americans who were tired of conflict and chaos. The election was fiercely contested. On November 7, 2020, after days of counting votes, major news networks declared Joe Biden the winner of the presidential election. He received more than 81 million votes, the highest number ever cast for a U.S. presidential candidate. Kamala Harris made history as the first female vice president of the United States. When Joe Biden gave his victory speech, he said, "I will work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as those who did." Let this grim era of demonization begin to end here and now. His words reflected his lifelong belief in unity and decency, the road to the White House. The period between November 2020 and January 2021 was one of the most tense transitions in American political history. Outgoing President Donald Trump and many of his supporters refused to accept the election results. This created political chaos and deep divisions across the country. The situation reached its worst point on January 6, 2021, when a violent mob attacked the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. The event shocked the world and tested the strength of American democracy. Through it all, Joe Biden remained calm and focused. He continued to call for peace, patience, and respect for democratic institutions. He promised that his administration would restore integrity and normalcy to the White House. On January 20, 2021, under heavy security, Joe Biden was inaugurated as the 46th President of the United States. He placed his hand on a large family Bible that had been in his family for over 100 years. In his inaugural address, he said, "This is America's day. This is democracy's day. We will press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do in this winter of peril and possibility." His speech was a message of hope after a time of division and crisis. Millions of Americans watched as he began a new chapter in the nation's history, the first 100 days and key priorities. From the moment Joe Biden took office, he faced extraordinary challenges. The COVID-19 pandemic was still spreading rapidly, the economy was struggling, and millions of people were unemployed. Schools were closed, and the nation was grieving the loss of hundreds of thousands of lives. Biden's first task was to control the pandemic and stabilize the country. He launched an ambitious vaccination campaign, aiming to deliver 100 million shots in his first 100 days. He achieved that goal ahead of schedule and continued expanding vaccine access nationwide. His administration passed the American Rescue Plan, a massive economic relief package designed to support families, small businesses, and healthcare workers. He rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, reaffirming America's commitment to fighting climate change. He also reversed several policies from the previous administration that had restricted immigration and environmental protections. Biden's leadership style during these first months reflected his personality, calm, deliberate, and focused on compassion. He spent time comforting families who had lost loved ones and thanking frontline workers for their sacrifices. He often said, "We're in this together, and we will come out stronger than before." The early months of his presidency showed that he wanted to restore dignity, honesty, and empathy in American leadership. He worked not only as a politician, but also as a healer of a wounded nation. America in crisis. The COVID-19 challenge. When Joe Biden took office in January 2021, the United States was facing one of the most serious crises in modern history, the COVID-19 pandemic. Millions of Americans had already been infected, businesses were collapsing, schools were closed, and families were separated by lockdowns and fear. Biden knew that his leadership would be judged by how he handled this crisis. On his very first day as president, he launched a national vaccination plan, promising to make vaccines available to every American. Within months, his administration expanded testing, distributed free vaccines, and reopened many parts of the economy. He often said, "We're in a war against this virus, not against each other." His speeches focused on unity, science, and compassion. He encouraged Americans to trust experts and care for one another. However, not everything was easy. Vaccine hesitancy and misinformation slowed progress. Still, Biden's calm and empathetic leadership restored faith among millions. He reminded the world that true leadership means empathy and consistency. The fight against COVID-19 tested Biden's patience, but it also became one of the defining moments of his presidency, a time when he balanced public health, economic recovery, and national unity. Foreign policy and America's global role. Joe Biden entered the White House with a clear foreign policy message: America is back. After years of global uncertainty, Biden aimed to rebuild trust with traditional allies, especially in Europe and Asia, and restore America's image as a reliable world leader. One of his major foreign policy moves was ending the 20-year war in Afghanistan. Though the withdrawal in 2021 faced chaos and criticism, Biden stood by his decision, saying the United States could not stay in forever wars. He also strengthened NATO, supported Ukraine after the Russian invasion in 2022, and led global sanctions against Russia. His diplomatic style was calm but firm, always emphasizing democracy and cooperation. In climate policy, Biden rejoined the Paris Agreement, showing that America once again took climate change seriously. He also hosted global summits on clean energy and carbon reduction. Through it all, Biden wanted to rebuild America's credibility, not by power alone, but by partnership and example. His message was clear: the world doesn't follow us because of our might. It follows us because of our values: economy, inflation, and the American recovery. As the pandemic eased, Biden faced another challenge: economic recovery and inflation. His administration introduced the American Rescue Plan, providing financial help to struggling families, small businesses, and schools. The plan lifted millions of Americans out of poverty and boosted job creation. Later, Biden signed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, one of the biggest infrastructure bills in U.S. history. It focused on rebuilding roads, bridges, and broadband access across the country, creating thousands of jobs and improving America's competitiveness. However, rising inflation became a serious concern. Prices of food, fuel, and housing increased, frustrating many Americans. Biden admitted that the road to recovery was not easy, but continued to emphasize long-term stability and fairness. He said, "I know the cost of living is high, but we're building something stronger, an economy from the bottom up and the middle out." Despite criticism, his economic agenda remained focused on fair wages, clean energy, and American-made innovation, a vision for a more resilient and equitable future. Social justice, unity, and leadership style. Throughout his presidency, Joe Biden often spoke about the soul of America. He believed that leadership was not just about policy, it was about healing divisions and restoring dignity. From the Black Lives Matter movement to LGBTQ+ rights, Biden supported equality and inclusion. He appointed one of the most diverse cabinets in American history, including the first woman vice president, Kamala Harris, and officials from various backgrounds. He signed executive orders to protect voting rights, expand health care, and reform the justice system. But beyond laws and policies, his biggest goal was unity. He often quoted his mother's advice, "Nobody is better than you, and you're no better than anyone else." His speeches avoided anger and focused on compassion. Even when critics attacked him, he responded with calmness. Biden's leadership style was deeply human, full of empathy, patience, and understanding. To many Americans, he represented a kind of quiet strength, the belief that decency and respect still matter in politics, legacy, reflections, and personal philosophy. As Joe Biden continued his journey as president, he began to reflect on a life filled with both triumph and tragedy. From the loss of his first wife and daughter in 1972 to the passing of his beloved son, Beau Biden, in 2015. Grief had always been a companion. Yet through it all, he never gave up. His faith, family, and resilience kept him going. He once said, "Faith sees best in the dark." Biden's story is not about perfection. It is about perseverance. He proved that even after failure, loss, and heartbreak, one can rise again with purpose. His legacy will likely be remembered for three things. 1. Empathy in leadership, leading with heart and understanding. 2. Restoring alliances, making America respected again around the world. 3. Defending democracy, believing that unity, not division, is the true strength of a nation. Joe Biden's journey from Scranton, Pennsylvania to the White House is not just an American political story. It's a human story of resilience, kindness, and hope. And for English learners, it's a story that teaches not only new words, but new wisdom. That language, like life, grows through struggle and courage. And that was the incredible life story of Joe Biden, a man who proved that no matter how many times life breaks you, you can always rise again with courage, faith, and compassion. Dear learners, through this story, you not only learned about history and leadership, you also practiced real English listening, pronunciation, and natural rhythm. Every sentence, every emotion, every pause helped you move one step closer to fluent English. Remember, English is not just a language, it is a bridge to connect with the world. So keep listening, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself. If you enjoyed this story and learned something new today, please like, comment, and subscribe to English Lane, the place where you learn English through inspiring real-life stories of the world's most powerful and influential people. Thank you for watching, and see you soon with another powerful story, only on English Lane, where learning English meets inspiration.